It was 4:17 p.m. when my teacher waved at someone standing behind me. I was the only student left in the room. The sound came first, the dry scrape of chair legs against tile as everyone rushed out for the long weekend. Lockers slammed in chaotic rhythm down the hallway. A burst of laughter echoed, then dissolved into distance. Within minutes, the school emptied like air leaving a lung. Except for me. I stayed after school to retake a chemistry test. I'd failed the first one. Too many late nights pretending I wasn't exhausted. Too many mornings pretending I understood material I never studied. My mom had just started a second job at the hospital cafeteria. She came home smelling like burnt coffee and bleach. I didn't want to be another weight pressing down on her. Mr. Halpern sat at the front desk grading papers while I worked. He was new that year, soft-spoken, pale, always buttoned up, even at heat waves, the kind of teacher who never raised his voice, which somehow made disappointment feel worse. By 4:15, the fluorescent lights began their familiar buzzing flicker, that thin electrical hum you only notice when everything else goes silent. I finished the test. My pencil felt heavier than it should have. I stood up and walked toward his desk. That's when Mr. Halpern smiled past me. Not at me, past me, and gave a small, polite wave. "Have a good weekend," he said warmly. I froze. There was no one behind me. The classroom door was closed. The blinds were half drawn, slicing gray light across rows of empty desks. The windows reflected the room in dull panels of shadow and glare. I forced a small laugh. "Who are you talking to?" He blinked once. Then, slowly, very slowly, his eyes shifted from the space behind me to my face. "No one," he said. His voice sounded thinner, fragile. "You should head home." Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. I nodded and grabbed my backpack. As I reached for the door handle, I felt it, that unmistakable awareness. Someone standing inches behind me, not touching, just close enough that I could sense the heat, the weight of presence. The way your body knows when it's not alone. My breath caught. I turned around. Empty. Mr. Halpern was back at his desk staring down at the papers, but his pen wasn't moving. He wasn't grading. He was listening. To something. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the classroom windows in my mind. And then I saw it. In the reflection. I hadn't noticed it in the moment, but memory is strange. It sharpens when you're afraid. There had been something behind me in the glass, a distortion in the reflection, a shape taller than me, standing perfectly still, close enough that if it had lungs, I would have felt them breathe. Monday morning, I asked my friend Marcus if anyone else had stayed late Friday. "No," he said. "Why?" "Just wondering." "You okay? You look wrecked." I shrugged it off. Third period chemistry felt wrong the second I stepped inside. The air was heavier, stale. There was a faint metallic scent, like old pennies or blood left too long on skin. Mr. Halpern looked exhausted. Dark circles dragged under his eyes. His hands trembled when he wrote on the board. Halfway through explaining covalent bonds, he stopped mid-sentence. His eyes locked on the back corner of the room, right behind my desk. "You don't belong here," he whispered. The class laughed. I didn't, because I felt it again, that closeness, like someone leaning over my shoulder reading along with me. I didn't turn around. After class, I stayed behind. The door shut with a hollow click as the last student left. "Sir," I said quietly, "who are you waving to on Friday?" He didn't pretend to misunderstand. Instead, he walked to the classroom door and locked it. The click sounded final. "It only appears when someone is alone," he whispered. "But now it's not waiting for that anymore." A chill slid down my spine. "What is it?" His eyes drifted to the windows. "It started 3 years ago. Different school, different classroom. A student stayed late. Said he saw someone standing behind him in the reflection. My heart pounded in my ears. He described it as incomplete, like it wasn't fully there. I swallowed. What happened? The next week, Mr. Halpern said, the student transferred. No warning, just gone. Transferred. The word felt wrong. What does that have to do with me? He looked at me with something close to guilt. Because I waved at it then, too. The lights flickered violently overhead. Behind me, a chair scraped across the tile. Slow, deliberate. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. It's closer now, Mr. Halpern breathed. The scraping stopped. Silence swallowed the room whole. Finally, I forced myself to look. The back corner was empty, but my desk wasn't where I'd left it. It had been dragged 2 feet backwards, as if something needed more space to stand behind me. I transferred schools 2 weeks later. My mom thought it was because of grades. I didn't correct her. Mr. Halpern quit teaching shortly after. No announcement, just gone. I tried to move on. New school, new schedule, new routine. But reflections started changing. First in mirrors, just slight delays, my reflection blinking half a second after I did. Then in windows, faint outlines too tall to be mine. Then in screens. The first time it happened on my laptop, I almost dropped it. The screen went black after a restart, and there it was, standing behind me, closer than before. Its proportions were wrong, shoulders too narrow, arms too long, head tilted at an unnatural angle, as if studying me. I didn't move, neither did it, until, slowly, it raised one hand and waved. I slammed the laptop shut. Weeks passed. I convinced myself it was stress, anxiety, my brain replaying trauma, but reflections don't invent details you don't imagine. Last month, I found Mr. Halpern online. No social media, no teaching records, but I found a forum post from years ago, anonymous. I think it attaches through acknowledgement. The moment you react to it, you make space for it. I stopped reading because I remembered something. That first day, when he waved, I hadn't just turned around. I'd looked directly at the window, directly at the reflection, and for half a second, I thought I'd seen it smile. Now, sometimes when I'm alone, I feel the space behind me widen, as if something is adjusting the room to fit itself inside it. I don't stay in empty rooms anymore. I don't sit with my back to windows, and I never look at black screens without turning the lights on first. But last night, during a power outage, my phone screen went dark, and in that glossy reflection, it wasn't behind me anymore. It was standing beside me, and this time, it didn't wave. It waited.
Story 2. The Detention Recording. Extended Cut. The security footage was never supposed to be seen, but I've watched it 27 times. The first time, I told myself it was edited. The second time, I thought maybe the timestamps were corrupted. By the 15th, I stopped trying to explain it. Now, I just count details. The way my hand twitches at exactly 6:09 p.m. The way none of us blink. The way we're all smiling like we've been told to. It was my fault we were in detention. Senior prank. Smoke bomb in the east hallway between second and third period. Harmless. Loud. Dramatic. We wanted chaos. 5 minutes of legend before graduation erased us. Instead, the fire alarm triggered a full evacuation, sprinklers activated in 2 classrooms. Parents complained, the principal needed someone to blame. That someone was us. 5 of us. Me, Tyler, Jenna, Marcus, Leela. Friday detention, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Room 204. History class. The kind of classroom that feels older than the building. Faded presidential portraits staring down from cracked beige walls, a chalkboard permanently stained gray, blinds that never fully close. Mr. Riggins supervised detention. Strict but fair. Former military. Iron shirts, no nonsense. He collected our phones in a clear plastic bin and set it on his desk. No talking, No sleeping. 2 hours. At 4:15, we were bored. At 4:40, Tyler tried whispering jokes. Mr. Riggins shut it down with a look. At 5:06 p.m., the power flickered. Not unusual. The building wiring was ancient. At 5:07 p.m., the lights cut out completely. Pitch black. Then the emergency backup activated. Thin red LED strips along the floor near the walls. The room filled with a dim, blood-colored glow that stretched our shadows too long. "Stay seated," Mr. Riggins said calmly. Someone laughed nervously. Then the intercom crackled. We all expected the principal's voice. Instead, it played breathing. Slow, heavy, wet, too close to the microphone. Every inhale dragged like air passing through something obstructed. Leela started crying immediately, soft at first, then shaky. "Okay, that's enough," Mr. Riggins said, walking toward the door. He turned to the handle. Locked. He frowned. Tried again. Harder. Still locked. "That's not possible," he muttered. "They don't auto-lock." The breathing on the intercom stopped. Silence pressed in. Then a voice replaced it. Distorted, metallic, layered with static. "You're not supposed to be here." We stared at each other. "This is a prank," Tyler said, but his voice cracked halfway through. The security camera above the whiteboard made a mechanical whirring sound. It rotated. Slowly. It wasn't supposed to move. We knew that. It stopped when it was pointed directly at us. At 5:12 p.m., the classroom phone rang, the old corded one on Mr. Riggins' desk. The sound was jarring in the dark. He hesitated before answering. "Room 204? Silence. His posture changed. He straightened. "What do you mean?" He listened for a long time. Too long. Then he hung up. His face had drained of color. "What did they say?" I asked. He swallowed. "They said detention ended at 4:30. No one spoke. "That's not funny," Jenna whispered. The red emergency lights began to pulse. Not flicker. Pulse. In a slow, steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. The intercom crackled again. "This building is closed." The door handle rattled violently from the outside, metal slamming against metal. Someone screamed. I think it was me. Then the red lights snapped off. Everything went black. Not dim, not shadowed, just absolute absence. In that darkness, I felt something brush my shoulder. Not a hand, more like fabric. Cold. Then a whisper near my ear. Not through speakers, right next to me. "You stayed." The next thing I remember is waking up outside the school. Concrete under my cheek, ambulance lights flashing red and blue against the brick walls. The air smelled of ozone and wet pavement. My head throbbed. The others were scattered nearby, all conscious but disoriented. Mr. Riggins was sitting against the building, staring ahead blankly. They told us there had been a power grid malfunction, said the outage caused panic in several classrooms, claimed we must have forced the door open and stumbled outside during the confusion. But here's what doesn't make sense. None of us remember leaving the room. None of us remember opening the door. And the security footage doesn't match our story. My uncle works in district IT. I begged him to show me the recording from that night. He refused at first. Then, one weekend when my aunt wasn't home, he let me sit beside him in his office. We watched the footage together. At 4:28 p.m., we're clearly visible in room 204. Talking quietly. Normal. At 4:30 p.m., Mr. Riggins stands up and says something. We gather our things. At 4:32 p.m., all 5 of us leave the classroom. Laughing. Walking out together. Phones in hand. No red lights. No darkness. No panic. No Mr. Riggins. The hallway camera shows us exiting the building at 4:35 p.m. It looks normal, casual. The timestamp jumps from 4:33 to 6:10 in the classroom feed. When it resumes, the room is empty, still, dark. Except at 6:09 p.m., one single frame appears before the feed stabilizes. Just one. All 5 of us are back in our seats, facing the camera, sitting perfectly upright, smiling, not laughing, not smirking, smiling, wide, identical, eyes open too wide, unblinking. Mr. Riggins isn't in the frame. The timestamp reads 6:09:58. At 6:10:00, the classroom is empty again. My uncle replayed it 3 times. Glitch, he muttered, but his hands were shaking. We never talk about it now. Here's the worst part. The others don't remember the red lights. They don't remember the intercom. When I bring it up, they look confused. Detention ended early. We left at 4:30, Marcus told me once. That's not what happened, I insisted. He just stared at me like I was joking. Leela transferred 2 months later. Tyler started having panic attacks whenever fire alarms went off. Jenna refuses to walk past room 204. And Mr. Riggins? He retired mid-year. No explanation. Sometimes I call my friends late at night just to hear their voices, to confirm they're real. But before they answer, there's always breathing on the line. Slow, heavy, too close. Last week, I paused the footage on that 6:09 frame, zoomed in, adjusted brightness. Behind us, between our desks, there's something standing, not fully formed, like heat distortion, taller than all of us, centered, as if we're positioned around it, and the way we're smiling, it doesn't look forced. It looks welcoming. I don't remember what happened between 5:07 and waking up outside the school, but sometimes when I close my eyes, I see that red glow again, and I feel that whisper near my ear. You stayed. The security footage was never supposed to be seen, but I think it wanted to be.
Story 3. The Substitute. The substitute knew my name before I said it, and I'd never seen her before in my life. It was a Thursday. Rain hammered against the classroom windows so hard it sounded like fingertips drumming to be let in. The sky outside was the color of dirty wool. Half the class was out sick, flu season they said, and the hallway had felt strangely hollow walking in that morning. Our English teacher, Mrs. Adler, hadn't shown up. Instead, a woman in a gray cardigan stood at the front of the room when the bell rang. No introduction, no polite smile, just attendance. She didn't pick up the roster sheet on the desk. She didn't glance down once. She simply looked at each of us and said our names from memory. Tyler Nguyen. Here. Madison Clark. Here. Her voice was soft, even, almost soothing, not monotone, just precise, like someone reading from a script only she could see. When she got to me, she paused. Her eyes rested on my face longer than they had on anyone else. Ethan Cole, she said quietly. My throat tightened. Yes? You won't be here next Thursday. A few students laughed. Someone muttered, "Damn, Ethan, skipping already?" But I didn't laugh, because she wasn't joking. Her expression never changed. She simply continued, "Rachel Morgan." The moment passed like it hadn't happened at all, but something in my chest had shifted, like a glass placed too close to the edge of a table. Midway through class, she wrote an assignment on the board. Write a letter to your future self. Be honest, she said, folding her hands in front of her. You won't remember writing it. That line lodged itself in my brain. We exchanged glances, confused. Is this for a grade? Someone asked. In a way, she replied. The room felt smaller as we began writing. The rain intensified, blurring the outside world into gray streaks. The fluorescent lights flickered once, then steadied. I stared at the blank page for a long time. What do you write to someone you're supposed to become? I ended up writing about normal things: college, getting out of this town, making my mom proud. Nothing dramatic. When the bell rang, she collected the letters one by one and placed them neatly into her leather bag. I approached her desk as the others left. "Have we met before?" I asked. She tilted her head slightly. "Not yet." Cold dread spread slowly through my body. "What did you mean about next Thursday?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "You'll see." And that was it. She walked out before I could say anything else. By the time I reached the hallway, she was gone. No one else seemed bothered. "She was weird, but kinda cool," Madison said. "Total performance art vibes," Tyler added. But when I asked the office later who the substitute was, the secretary frowned. "We didn't have one scheduled for English today. Mrs. Adler never called out." The following week, rumors spread that a student from another school had gone missing. A girl named Mara Jensen, transferred into our district last month. Quiet, kept to herself. I remembered her immediately. She sat near the window. The substitute had called her name first during attendance. But when I checked the yearbook from this semester, Mara Jensen wasn't in it. No photo, no record. I searched the online student directory. Nothing. The school denied she ever enrolled. By Wednesday night, I couldn't sleep. Rain started again, tapping lightly against my bedroom window. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed. I was sitting in our English classroom, alone. The substitute stood at the board, writing the date. Next Thursday's date. Her handwriting was slow and deliberate. She turned around, and every desk behind me was filled with versions of me. Younger me with braces, older me with tired eyes, a version with a scar across his cheek, one with gray in his hair, all staring forward at her. I turned to look at them. Every single one smiled in perfect sync. I woke up to pounding on my front door. Police. They asked if I knew Mara Jensen. They asked if I'd spoken to her recently. I lied and said no, because how do you explain someone who doesn't exist was in your class? The next day, I went to school and demanded to see the security footage from that Thursday. The IT administrator pulled up the feed from our classroom. At the exact time English should have been in session, the room was empty, desks untouched, no students, no substitute. The timestamp didn't glitch. It simply showed nothing, an empty classroom. But I remembered sitting there, writing, hearing rain, hearing her voice. Next Thursday came. I didn't go to school. I locked myself in my room, turned off my phone, closed the blinds. At 2:13 p.m., my phone buzzed anyway. Unknown number. Voicemail. My hands shook as I pressed play. It was my voice, clear, calm, reading a letter. "Dear future me," it said, "I don't think we make it past today." I felt the blood drain from my face. There was a pause in the recording, then, faintly behind my voice, her voice. "Attendance complete." The call ended. I dropped the phone. I checked the timestamp. The voicemail had been left at 10:42 a.m. during third period English. I never went back to that school. My mom thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. We moved towns by summer. I tried to forget. But sometimes when it rains, I hear something outside my window. Soft, measured, like someone reading from a list. Last month, I searched missing persons databases. There were others. Students from different districts, different states. All disappeared on Thursdays, all during class hours. No connection, except one detail buried in an online forum. A comment from someone claiming they had a substitute who predicted a student wouldn't be there the following week. The account was deleted. No replies. Last week, it rained again, hard, loud enough to drown out everything else. I was sitting at my desk, laptop open. The screen went dark during a restart. In the reflection, she stood behind me. Gray cardigan, head slightly tilted, holding a stack of letters. My letters, all different handwriting, all addressed to future me. She leaned closer to my ear and whispered, "Ethan Cole." Not a question, an acknowledgement. Then, present. The screen turned back on. She was gone. But there was something new on my desktop. A text file, untitled. I don't remember creating it. I opened it. One line. Next Thursday. I don't know what happens next Thursday. I don't know if it means disappearance, replacement, or something worse. But sometimes when rain taps at the glass, I hear names being called softly outside. Last week, they said mine twice. Subscribe for more chilling tales.